Hey guys, it's Owen from Wrestling Inc. back with another wrestling news roundup. Without any further ado, let's get into today's biggest stories in the world of professional wrestling. Backstage news on WrestleMania 38 plans for Steve Austin and Kevin Owens. WWE Hall of Famer Steve Austin is reportedly working on his cardio as he prepares to get physical with Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38. There had been rumors on Austin coming out of retirement to wrestle Owens at WrestleMania, but WWE has officially announced that Austin will confront Owens on a special edition of the KO show scheduled for Night 1 of WrestleMania 38, also known as WrestleMania Saturday. While WWE officials wanted Austin to do a match, the Wrestling Observer newsletter reports that the scheduled match was changed as Austin agreed to do the segment with a quote fight sequence but not a match. Word is that Austin has been upping his cardio work as of late. The current plan for the segment at WrestleMania calls for a quote fight scene and not just a quick Stone Cold Stunner to Owens. It was noted that the segment is planned to consist of more than just a stunner to Owens, but that the stunner is the obvious conclusion. There was talk of doing an angle to lead to a match between Austin and Owens if Austin were to agree to it, but WWE felt like they needed to announce Austin for the card this week and not at a later date. While Stone Cold has gotten physical at several events since retiring in 2003, WWE is billing his WrestleMania 38 segment as his first physical confrontation in 19 years. Austin is saying he's coming to AT&T Stadium to open, quote, one final can of whoop-ass on Owens. There's no word on if Austin will be appearing on Raw in the lead up to WrestleMania 38, but promotional material for the match indicates we won't see Austin confront Owens until the big event in Arlington, Texas that night. William Regal reportedly dealing with serious health issues. Pro wrestling legend William Regal is dealing with a lot of serious health issues, according to Dave Meltzer of the Wrestling Observer. As noted previously, Regal took to Twitter to apologize for his lengthy promo on this week's AEW Dynamite. Those in the building noted the floor director kept asking Regal to wrap up the promo, but he kept going. This led to several segments being cut or rushed during the remainder of the show. Quote, this is a professional note from me as I have no other form of social media and would rather my new colleagues see this as I don't like gossip, Regal wrote on Twitter. I am very sorry to everyone affected by my time issues last night. I apologize to everyone personally affected. I should be showing people by example and being a pro and hitting my times. According to Meltzer, Regal mentioning his time issues has caused people to freak out backstage in AEW. Apparently, Regal's health issues at this stage, quote, are far more serious than have ever come out, end quote, and his interview on next week's Talk Is Jericho will detail them. In his 2005 autobiography, Regal disclosed that substance abuse nearly killed him during his early years in the business. Regal wrote that his match with Chris Benoit at the Brian Pillman Memorial Show renewed his interest in pro wrestling. William Regal made his AEW debut at last Sunday's Revolution pay-per-view. He was released by WWE on January 5th after spending 21 years with the company. AEW Dynamite audience under 1 million viewers for post-Revolution episode. Wednesday's live post-Revolution edition of AEW Dynamite drew 945,000 viewers on TBS, according to Nielsen via Showbuzz Daily. This is down 2.17% from last week's Revolution Go Home episode, which drew 966,000 viewers. This week's Dynamite drew a 0.40 rating in the key 18 to 49 demographic. This is up 14.28% from last week's 0.35 rating. Dynamite ranked number 1 on the cable top 150 this week with a 0.40 rating in the 18 to 49 key demo. This is up from last week's number 8 ranking. Dynamite ranked 50th in viewership for the night on cable this week. This is up from last week's 62 ranking. Wednesday's Dynamite drew the third lowest audience since the move to TBS. The key demo rating was in the middle of what the show has been doing since the move from TNT, higher than 4 episodes and lower than 4 episodes. Wednesday's Dynamite viewership was down 2.17% from last week, while the 18 to 49 key demo rating was up 14.28% from last week. This week's Dynamite viewership was up 27.19% from the same week in 2021. The key demo rating was up 25% from the previous year. The 2021 episode was also the post-Revolution show and went head-to-head with WWE NXT. Backstage note on Scorpio Sky's AEW TNT title win. Scorpio Sky's AEW TNT title win was reportedly planned a while back. This week's AEW Dynamite main event saw Sky defeat Sammy Guevara to become the new TNT champion. Sky earned the title shot as he was undefeated in singles action for 1 year since his loss to then TNT champion Darby Allin on March 10, 2021 edition of AEW Dynamite. In an update, Fightful Select reports that Sky's title win was planned as far back as late 2021. The February departure of Cody Rhodes caused a, quote, minimal hiccup in creative plans, but a lot of what went down still happened as planned. Back when Guevara won the TNT title from Miro on September 29, it was already planned that Rhodes would win the title from Guevara, but then Guevara would win it back. However, that was delayed by a week when Rhodes was unable to make his title defense at Battle of the Bouts in January. After winning the bout from Miro in late September, Guevara dropped the title to Rhodes at the Holiday Bash Dynamite taping in late December. Cody was unable to make Battle of the Bouts, so they had Guevara defeat Dustin Rhodes to determine the interim champion. And then Guevara defeated Rhodes in an undisputed TNT title ladder match at the Beach Break Dynamite on January 26. Since winning the ladder match, Guevara retained over Isaiah Cassidy, Darby Allin, Andrade El Idolo, and then Allin and Andrade in a triple threat match before losing to Sky this week. Sky is scheduled to defend his TNT title against Wardlow on next week's St. Patrick's Day Slam edition of Dynamite. Wardlow earned the title shot by winning the Face of the Revolution ladder match at the Revolution pay-per-view this past Sunday. AEW matches new contracts for the Hardys, what led to Jeff Hardy's debut on Dynamite. AEW has signed Matt Hardy and Jeff Hardy to new contracts. As noted, Wednesday's AEW Dynamite on TBS saw Jeff make his debut for the company, saving Matt from an attack by the AFO after they booted him from the group. Jeff had just become a free agent earlier in the day as his 90-day non-compete clause with WWE expired when the clock struck midnight. In an update, Matt and Rebby Hardy went live on Twitch last night and revealed the details that led to Jeff's big debut on Dynamite. He also revealed that he signed a new contract extension with AEW as the company matched up his deal with Jeff's new contract. Matt noted that he flew back home after Revolution instead of having an off day in Florida and spent time with the family on Tuesday. He and Jeff spent some time together on Tuesday, and Rebby took new photos for them for their upcoming indie tour. And she also filmed video footage around the Hardy compound, and some of that footage was used for the Hardy's AEW entrance video. News on AEW Revolution pay-per-view buys. The 2022 AEW Revolution pay-per-view looks to be one of the most successful events in company history. Last Sunday's Revolution event from the Edition Financial Arena in Orlando, Florida, drew 110,000 pay-per-view buys on Bleacher Report and Fight, according to Wrestling Observer Radio. Depending on how well Revolution did on cable and satellite providers, the pay-per-view could end up with a low of 146,000 buys and a high of 165 to 170,000 buys. This would make Revolution the second best AEW pay-per-view in terms of buys, only behind the 2021 All Out pay-per-view, which drew a reported 205,000 total buys. Each of AEW's last 5 pay-per-view events have brought over 115,000 buys. Before Revolution, Full Gear 2021 drew 145,000 buys. All Out 2021 drew the 205,000 buys. Double or Nothing 2021 drew 115,000 buys. And Revolution 2021 drew 135,000 buys. The Revolution 2020 pay-per-view drew 90,000 buys. So what are your thoughts on today's Wrestling News Roundup? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Be sure to like and subscribe to Wrestling Inc. and I'll speak to you again very, very soon.